All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time of year. Let's start to get ready for our best ball tournaments. Let's start to get ready for our redraft leagues. And I want to hop into 5 players that I am currently drafting left and right in 2025 fantasy football drafts. All right, let's kick the video off with one of my guys every single year. That is Devonte Smith of the Philadelphia Eagles, currently sitting at an ADP of 43 overall on Underdog Fantasy. This is just one of those players that every single year brings you production, brings you consistency, is a player you can throw in at the flex. You don't have to worry about his production on a week in, week out basis. Is there a ton of upside? Not always, but we have to also be looking for consistency, especially with double flex formats becoming more and more popular, 3 wide receiver formats becoming more popular. Devonta Smith is that guy. Okay. He has been a top 30 fantasy football wide receiver every single year of his career. And in the past 3 seasons, he's finished as a top 20 or better in 2 of the last 3 seasons. Last year, missed a little bit of time, played 13 total games, had 68 receptions off of 89 targets, 833 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Ultimately finished as the wide receiver 27 in full PPR formats, but like I said, missed some time and all of that. But what was most important for Devonta Smith's fantasy season last year is he finished the season very strong with double-digit finishes in weeks 14 through week 17, including 30 fantasy points in the fantasy championship. And we look at this Eagles roster right now. There's no competition for Devonta Smith outside of obviously AJ Brown as a wide receiver 1, but this is an offense that can easily function with 2 wide receivers, a wide receiver 1A and 1B, in my opinion, in AJ Brown and Devonta Smith. Obviously, Saquon Barkley, Jalen Hurts, those guys are going to get production in their own ways, touchdown production, all that stuff. But still, Devonta Smith is set for another solid year of consistency. We go back to last season. I know there was a little bit of a rough patch kind of mid-season, but in games that Devonta Smith played last year, he scored double-digit fantasy points, 11.1 or more fantasy points in every game except for 3. I'm expecting that same consistency in 2025, and I'm going to continue to draft Devonta Smith all over the place in our upcoming fantasy drafts. All right, next up, we have Kairen Williams at the running back position. He is currently sitting at an ADP of 30 overall on Underdog Fantasy. And this really blows my mind. I mean, I know that on Underdog, running backs, their ADP can be pushed back a little bit because the wide receiver position is a little bit more important. But ADP of 30 is crazy to me when Kairen Williams has finished as the RB7 in back-to-back seasons. And there is no competition on this team. I know we got Blake Corum and Ronnie Rivers there, but that did not impact Kairen Williams whatsoever last season. Kairen was on fire all year long. He had single-digit fantasy points in one game last year. He was a monster through the fantasy playoffs. He scored a total of 16 touchdowns, including receiving touchdowns, just under 1,300 yards on the ground. Another monster productive season for Kairen in 2024, just like he had in 2023. And there are rumors that the Rams are looking to extend Kairen Williams, which would only give us more confidence in his upcoming season. So this ADP for me, I think is a steal. I think if you're going to go kind of at wide receiver a little bit earlier in your draft, Kairen falls to you in the 3rd, maybe the end of the 2nd. I think that is an absolutely great place to select your RB1 in Kairen Williams. Averaged 17 fantasy points per game last year. I mean, there's just nothing negative to say here whatsoever. His ADP right now is awesome, and I will continue to draft Kairen Williams as much as I can as long as this value is on the board. All right, taking a look at another wide receiver, let's talk about Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. When we look at the Broncos going into the 2025 NFL draft, there's a lot of speculation that they would go out and draft a wide receiver to add some depth to this wide receiver room, but they did not add anybody who is going to make an immediate impact in my mind. We got Marvin Mims and Troy Franklin right now as the wide receivers 2 and 3. You got guys like A.T. Perry and Devon Vele hanging around as well. We do, see Pat Bryant, the rookie, added here, but at the end of the day, none of these guys are going to have an impact on Courtland Sutton's value. I do love the addition of R.J. Harvey at the running back position. We do have the addition of tight end Evan Ingram as a veteran tight end added to this team as well, but once again, for me, none of that is going to change Courtland Sutton's production going into the 2025 season. Okay. He was a wide receiver 15 last year. You guys remember this time last year, I was very high on Courtland Sutton going into the 2024 season. And in 2023, he scored 10 touchdowns. Wasn't as good through, the air, finished as a wide receiver 35, but last year with Bo Nix at quarterback just took a bigger step forward in terms of his production in this offense, finished as the wide receiver 15 in full PPR, 81 catches off of 135 targets, just over 1,000 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. And once again, had a lot of production towards the end of this season with 2 touchdowns in the last 3 fantasy games of the season. And overall was just very consistent, especially once this offense got rolling. If you look between weeks 8 and week 17 of the season, you got double digits out of Courtland Sutton in each and every one of those games in terms of fantasy points scored. Average 14.1 fantasy points per game on the season. And for me, looking into next year, I think that this Broncos offense is going to be even better than last year. I think just another year in terms of training camp, all that stuff under the helm for Bo Nix going into sophomore season. I am a big fan of the Broncos offense going into next year in terms of the specific key starters like Courtland Sutton, Evan Ingram, and even RJ Harvey, the rookie running back. But I also really like Bo Nix in terms of draft values right now. This is an offense that I am taking shots on across the board going into the coming season. But Courtland Sutton sitting at an ADP of 52 overall. I will take a chance there. Even if he has some regression, he should still be looking at a top 20, top 25 at worst wide receiver going into next year. But I think he's going to be closer to that top 15, top 20 mark like he was in 2024. All right, going back to the running back position, let's take a look at a veteran, and that is David Montgomery of the Detroit Lions. This was another player this time last year that I was really high on, and David Montgomery kind of felt like an afterthought in a lot of drafts last year due to the emergence of Jahmyr Gibbs. And if Jahmyr Gibbs was emerging after his rookie season, he 110% emerged after last year, finishing as the RB3 in fantasy overall. David Montgomery, though, still finished as the RB17. And I mean, really, he had that injury in week 15 that just completely kind of dismantled things. But you take away week 15, David Montgomery only gave you single digits one other time last year. That was week 7 against Minnesota, one of the best run defenses in the NFL. And yes, Jahmyr Gibbs has the upside, has the passing upside, or pass catching upside, I should say. There's a little bit more touchdown upside, I guess you could argue. And Monty still had a very productive year, was a top 20 running back. Yes, you saw a little bit of a dip last year, but I don't even really want to say that because that was just due to the fact, in my opinion, that he missed the last 2 games of the season and part of week 15. He really would have been basically exactly on par, if not better, in 2024 compared to what he did in 2023. So Gibbs is probably going to get more touches this year. I'm not arguing against that, but right now with an ADP of 69 overall on Underdog, I think Monty is 110% worth the selection. If you're going to go kind of zero running back, this is the type of running back that you want to target. If you're going to go hero running back, I think that David Montgomery is a great value. And just in general, I think he's a very good value based on his current ADP. I know that, Ben Johnson obviously has departed as offensive coordinator here for the Lions, but this is still an offense that I feel very good about going into next season. We still got plenty of playmakers with Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, Sam Laporta, Gibbs, and Monty, and then he still got Goff at the quarterback position. So I still feel really good about Monty going into 2025. I think this ADP, just like this time last year, is an absolute steal for David Montgomery. So I'm going to continue to draft him left and right every chance I can get going into 2025. And last but not least, if you guys have followed this channel for any amount of time, you guys know that Rashad White is always going to be my guy. And I love his ADP on Underdog right now, currently sitting at 165 overall. This is a player that you can snag at the very end of your drafts, who I think is just a very, very good value. Yes, Bucky Irving was that guy last year. I'm not denying it. But Rashad White was still the RB24 in fantasy football. Still had plenty of production. 12.5 fantasy points per game. We break down his season, right? He had single digits in just 5 games last year. Every other game, he had double digits, had a total of 9 touchdowns, 6 through the air, 3 on the ground, and ended up with 57 targets, 51 catches, 393 receiving yards, compared to just 613 yards on the ground, right? So he is still the running back who is getting the primary work in terms of the passing game, although we did see Bucky Irving eat into some of that potential production as well. It will be interesting this year with a stacked wide receiver room with Emeka Mbuka added in the draft for the Bucks as well, with already having Godwin, Mike Evans, obviously, and my guy Jalen McMillan on this team. But at the end of the day, and I guess I should mention Kate Otten at tight end as well. At the end of the day, I think that there's still going to be a role for Rashad White. And this is the thing here, right? Like if Rashad White was going higher in drafts, and I wouldn't be as comfortable coming out and saying this, but I want to draft Rashad White right now because there's just not really any risk associated with drafting him. Once again, an ADP of 165. This is a player you can snag at the end of your drafts and add to your running back build, and it's just not going to hurt you if it doesn't work out. I don't know if there's particularly a ton of upside because I do agree with the sentiment that Bucky Irving is going to take another step forward in terms of the running back position on this team in 2025, but there's still production there for Rashad White. If your argument is the wide receiver room is even more bolstered, that's completely fine. Once again, this is not a player going early in drafts. This is not a player going in the first 5 rounds of drafts at the moment. This is a player you can take a flyer on at the end of your draft. And I personally am always looking for that type of value when I'm putting together my teams and when I am drafting. So I'm going to continue to leave Rashad White as one of my guys going into 2025, and I am still planning on drafting him as we approach the upcoming fantasy season. And that'll do it for today's video. There are 5 players who are going to be my guys heading into the 2025 fantasy football season. As always, I am answering every fantasy football question that you guys have in the comment section down below. If you guys need anything whatsoever, whether it's dynasty, best ball, or a redraft, drop me a question. I'll get back to you guys as soon as I can in the comment section down below. And if you guys are new to the channel, we do redraft, best ball, and dynasty content all year round. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss out on any of the content. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on The Catch.